Welcome to the STR Data Lab.
Hello and welcome to the next episode of the STR Data Lab. I'm Jamie Lane, Chief Economist at AirDNA, and I'm joined today by a really interesting guest. We have Ben Wolff, co-founder of both Onera and Oasi. Onera is a luxury treehouse company based out of the hill country of Texas. And Oasi, we'll get into it, sort of developing luxury retreats type hotel product that I think he just launched or is in the process of launching. So, Ben, thank you so much for joining.
Thanks for having me on, Jamie. Looking forward to the chat.
Yeah. So, and I feel like you've just been prolific on social these days. Beautiful properties, sort of maybe creating the next level of what everyone is sort of looking to and sort of building out social strategy for their short-term rentals, sort of making the leap from unique stays into hotel unique stays. So maybe just wanted to get started with how'd you get into this industry, and maybe start with some and the story of how you got in and maybe those first few years of how you sort of got going.
Yeah, sure. Happy to. It's been a long and winding road to Instagrammable tree houses. Let me tell you that. um, so yeah, where to start? I guess I first got involved in the short-term rental space. Actually with Sensei. If you remember Sensei, Jesse, Comley, my co-founder now in Oasi, actually founded, and he knew Scott, Scott Chafford, early days of AirDNA. So I was working for Jesse at Sensei doing business development for a very early short-term rental management company, right? Like back in
Yeah.
2013, 2014. And that's a little bit after that is when I started building my own portfolio, mostly lease arbitrage, right? In cities when that was very profitable and you were making a lot of cash doing that. And before regulation just got really stringent and hard to operate. So was doing that for a period. Initially, Sensei was managing for us. And then ultimately, I ended up building a management company that took over our small portfolio at the time. And that was about 8 properties by the beginning of 2018. And that's around when I quit my job as a software sales rep. And largely I quit because we had some potential management clients that wanted to get properties as well. And I knew that by getting properties for them, it would effectively pay my salary with management fees. So quit my job, started growing that business, and we went from 8 to 200 properties in like 18 months. Part of that short-term rental boom for sure. And then COVID hit. Most of our portfolio was urban. So that was a bit of a reckoning there. And I'd been interested in unique stays, glamping, outdoor hospitality for a while. Like there was already a trend line there even before COVID, and it just kind of went through the roof when COVID happened. So yeah, COVID really pushed me to do that. Something I'd been thinking about for a while. Jesse was another inspiration there. He had this like compound in Joshua Tree with a converted bus and Airstream, and he had another property with a yurt and these things. Like his basis was so low, and he was making such extensive revenue on these outdoor focused unique stay properties. I was like, man, there might be something here. And then me and my wife went on a road trip, actually borrowed Jesse's RV, went around the southwestern US and up through California, hit like a dozen national parks in 6 weeks or so. And it was amazing. Like refell in love with the great outdoors. I mean, I was a city boy, living in New York City for 12, 13 years. And it was amazing aside from all the hiccups we had with the RV, right? All the breakdowns and, the exterior compartment opening and my boots fly onto the freeway. And just, it was, that was not fun. And so that was part of the impetus behind doing something higher end, more the comforts of home, more luxury. And it was that experience, like what I would want. And I would think like what my dad would want, right? What, they don't really want to rough it. I didn't really want to rough it at all, but I wanted to experience, nature in this curated way, inspiring way, with the comforts of home. And the other piece was that it felt like a gap in the market. So there was auto camp, under canvas. I would call that like under canvas is like a little bit of roughing it. They don't have temperature control, right? Auto camp is, they have temperature control, but pretty small, becoming kind of commodity products after a few years of Airstreams becoming bigger. And so, yeah, we saw a big gap to go a step above that, but still nowhere near the level of like a Post Ranch Inn or Amman or some of these. We're trying to push into the Amman light kind of sphere now. But at that point we didn't. So built Onera in 2021 and opened in November. And like we had success out the gate. I mean, we opened only on Airbnb initially, and we were doing $500 plus ADRs, occupancies in the mid 80s, high 80s, some of our units over 90. And it was early 2022 that I really started exploring social media with Onera and starting to drive direct bookings. And that's also when we started negotiating with the public REIT that ultimately ended up buying us out. So that's the story kind of getting to Onera. And Oasi is my design, development, and then management and marketing firm for these unique stay landscape hotel assets. And that business is really booming as of the last 6 months to a year.
Yeah, so and it sounds like you're able to ride so many different trends, like ride up the sort of lease arbitrage in the sort of boom days of 2016 through 2019, and then pivot. It seems like looking back now so quickly into riding the trend that ended up being and one of the largest trends in the industry of unique stays of and you sort of joked that in 2021 you could put up a tent in your backyard and rent it up, and if you put a luxury tent in your backyard then you could get and 250 $300 a night. Maybe talk through some of the thinking and that sort of led and back in 2021 of like, one, did you think that this was going to be sustainable? Two, like, hasn't been sustainable. And like, do you see that this is going to be a long-term trend of like people wanting to be like nature adjacent with their stays?
Yeah, so I think that it's all around this idea of experiential travel and shareability. And that's really what we believe the modern traveler wants. They're willing to pay for a unique experience. They want to create lasting memories, to have a connection, like an authentic connection to a property. So I do believe it's sustainable. I don't believe that throwing up a tent in the backyard is or ever was sustainable, but it was a great money grab at the time, right?
Yeah.
Kudos to anybody who got in early, made some cash, and got out. That was never my vision. And that's part of why we went higher end with Onera. If it was just, okay, speed to market, get up as many of these things as we could and kind of cash grab while the fad is going on, then it would have been a different strategy. But to me, the long-term sustainable strategy is incredible guest experience, continuing to push one of one. I talk about a lot. So highly unique, even in the hill country now, right? There's hundreds of units coming online, if not thousands, of this kind of unique stay product, container homes, safari tents, domes, right? These things that have been unique stays historically that are starting to push into commodities almost. And so we've always tried to stay a step ahead. And I mean, I still believe Onera Wimberley, the next project we're opening in the hill country, is going to be the best in the area, the most unique, the most inspiring, best views, most luxurious. And then Oasi will even kind of go a step beyond that with more amenities and more focused on group travel, which I think is a big segment that wants this product, but has not been very well catered to yet. It's one area that I actually think AutoCamp, Under Canvas, some of these groups do a good job with the group segment, but I don't think in that sort of upscale segment, truly one of one, very inspiring, not just kind of, oh, we're outdoors, in that sort of more inspiring space, there's a big opportunity there that we want to go after with Oasi.
Yeah. So, and you mentioned the public REIT coming in and Summit Hotels. Like, I spent 10 years in the hotel industry. Like, Summit was a client of mine, and we were selling hotel forecasts. And they're a huge company, like one of the largest in terms of ownership groups. How did that sort of come about? That, I mean, was it just that they were sort of interested in sort of getting into this sort of unique stay vertical, and they saw you as sort of best in class and that it would be a great collab? Like, how did those conversations start?
Yeah, so Summit had a mandate from their board to get into alternative hospitality, so I mean that was a part of it
Yeah.
for sure. I mean a big part, and it was a new executive team that came in. They were excited about the space, younger, sort of more kind of hip to what was going on, I would say. and they were looking at short-term rental communities, more like typical homes. They were looking at glamping. They were looking at Onera, and they just really liked the level of which we were putting forward Onera, and obviously the rates we were getting were pretty exciting. We started talking to them pre-open, and they were excited about the product, and they saw how successful it was out the gate. Still took a year to get a deal done with them, right? Not shocker, public company. So yeah, we did that. But it's interesting. Obviously, like working with a REIT creates a lot of reporting hurdles, and I mean, we really had to grow up fast in terms of how we do reporting and sort of manage the P&L and all the rest. It's been good for us, and tracking like attribution of the things that we're doing on the marketing side, all a challenge, but all things that have made us better. And I think Summit's pushed us to do that. And from their perspective, I mean, I think there was a lot of people throwing up tents, sort of mom and pops getting these places going. But, I was ex-McKinsey. My partner, John's a lawyer, and he knew somebody, I think the CFO at Summit before, when we first started talking to them. So I think they believed us to be more sophisticated operators than most.
Yeah. So Onera, you guys sort of, and I think built out the entire portfolio in Texas Hill Country. Is that right?
So far, yes, that's correct.
What led you to that market? I mean, obviously, in great proximity to Austin, which has been one of the fastest growing sort of markets in the country. Saw so much inbound migration during the pandemic, and with high income tech workers. Like, it seems to have been like a perfect location for that type of product. But did you already know about it before you started? What was your sort of thesis there?
Yeah, so Austin and the surrounding areas have just experienced this remarkable economic boom over the past, number of years. And I had moved to Austin end of 2019. I was moving out of New York City. And for my first development project, I mean, this was my first development project. We'd done very light renovations on homes, furniture, obviously, things like that, but never built ground up. So I wanted to be close by. And Fredericksburg and Wimberley were the two markets in the Hill Country that kind of jumped off the page. Was using a lot of AirDNA back when you guys had top properties. That was one of my favorite ones to look at, because to me, it was, I think, a lot about maximum kind of a revenue that we can drive per square foot. And what we found was a smaller couples unit that had amazing views, or was a treehouse, something very unique. You could generate $100K a year plus on a 2-person unit, a 1-bedroom effectively. And that was pretty remarkable to me. I was like, wow, there's something here. And I saw that in Fredericksburg, and I saw it in Wimberley. So those are the markets we targeted. And then the icing was, if I look at top properties, I see there's these smaller units, couple stays doing $100,000 a year. Do I think I can be better than them? And the answer was resoundingly yes. They were not that amazing. They weren't that unique. And so I thought that Onera, as we were designing and concepting it, could be the best in the market, which has proven out to be the case. So that's kind of what led us there. And I honestly wanted to build in Wimberley first, but I just happened to find this amazing piece of property in Fredericksburg before. And it was this beautiful enchanted forest vibe property on a creek that was like a mile from Main Street, Fredericksburg. And we knew we weren't going to have amenities at the initial Onera properties. We were not in that business. We knew short-term rentals. So being very close proximity to tons of restaurants, shops, et cetera, was really important.
So, and famously, the hotel industry has so many brands. Like Marriott's got 30, and we even have now and unique stay type brands, things like that. Our mutual friend Michael Golden recently launched Nook, and I was excited to see that you guys were part of the collection that they launched. Can you talk through some about how you guys think about branding, maybe and the Onera brand, and be able to grow it, and then being part of a broader sort of soft brand with Nook, and what that might be able to bring to the table for you guys?
For sure. So Onera, we certainly view as an elevated brand. I mean, we wanted to have a certain level of sophistication. It was important to me before joining Nook that the other Nook properties were going to be to a certain standard. And it seemed like, me and Michael both had a similar view on that standpoint. We weren't going to be signing up people with throwing up the tent in the backyard, right? So
Michael has told me that he will never be sleeping in a tent. So
yeah. So I think we're of a same sort of makeup and mold there, and we
yeah,
like similar things in that department. So it was a natural fit from that standpoint. I think the things that really attracted me to Nook were the modern traveler, which I believe is what we're focused on, what we designed to. I think it's a lot of what Nook is playing on and sort of trying to capture as well. They want these unique, novel one-of-one experiences. So the little known fact, kind of dirty secret, is that you don't get a ton of repeat travelers because they want to experience all these different types of experiences, right? They want something unique. Maybe they'll come back to Onera, but they want to try the other 5 unique places first. So because of that, I mean, I've always believed there's a big opportunity to kind of cross market across these properties. So like a buddy of mine, Isaac French, started Live Oak Lake up in Waco. And before he sold it, we were talking about cross marketing to each other's audiences, because if somebody went to Live Oak Lake, I'm sure they're interested in going to Onera as well, and vice versa. So, I believe there's so much room in this space, and there's so little product that caters to the modern traveler, that I don't look at these people as competition. I look at it as almost like colleagues and contemporaries in the space. And the more of these properties that pop up, and the more like of them that are truly done well and inspiring, the more attention there is to it, the more that travelers know this is an option. And like the bigger I think the category gets, the easier it is to finance, the easier it is to get investors for it. So that's really how I look at this stuff. And then the other piece with Nook is being a smaller subscale, brand in a lot of ways. I mean, we have 11 keys at Onera now. We're growing rapidly. We're building 50 more units, $35 million in development. So it's going to be bigger, but still very small in the grand scheme of things in terms of key count. So it's hard to be at all the conferences and, trade shows and talking to all the journalists and all that. So if Nook can supplement our efforts there, then it's a big advantage for us.
no, that's great. I love the idea too of like and for so many of the different properties around the country, if they get one of those guests and someone that really likes it, there's a high likelihood that that guest will then want to stay in some of those other properties that are part of Nook, and the cross marketing opportunity seems great, and that's what you want out of a brand, right? Like you get people in booking direct once, and like, all right, now how can you sort of spread them across all the other properties and continue to generate sort of long-term revenue from those travelers?
Totally agree.
So, and you guys have, and we talked about it a little bit at the beginning, but you guys are one of my, and I say famously, I don't know if it's just my Instagram account, or if if it's everywhere, but you guys have beautiful properties. You do amazing photography, do amazing content around those properties. And I've heard you talk about it in the past, maybe on other podcasts, maybe just on social, that you feel are, tell me if I'm wrong, that social could be a major piece of bookings going forward. Could you sort of talk some about that, and like maybe how other hosts should be thinking about social, or what social could become in the future?
Yeah, happy to. I feel very strongly about this. I post about it a lot. We're all in on content marketing, social media, and kind of digital marketing more broadly, and really driving bookings direct. And that's ultimately what the goal is with the content marketing. So one thing that I'll also note is that we have a team of 14 people at the Oasi corporate level, and 8 of those people are on the content and digital marketing side. So
Wow.
it's more than half the company is, sits on that side. Just a reference point of how all in we are on this strategy. And it's not just property social. It's also like me as a founder, my social. And we want to be founder led. We want, guests to feel like they know me, they know the team, and to have that sort of personal connection to the property, which I think is another, massive opportunity in marketing. This idea of building in public, building a fan base before you even open the property. And then once you do open the property, having a connection to the person that built it, I just think is extremely valuable. And it's wild to me. Like I've been on more business related podcasts, and I've met guests that have stayed at Onera after they learned about us on me talking on this business related podcast, which I find wild. Now, in terms of the opportunity, I mean, I think that Instagram could be a leading booking engine effectively by, let's say, 2030, if not sooner. And the reason for that is it's better for both parties. It's better for the host and it's a better experience for the guest. So if you're trying to find an inspiring stay, maybe a romantic getaway, a unique destination, Instagram is a way better platform to find that and to just consume content to help you determine where you want to go than an Airbnb or a booking.com, right? You're looking at video. There's lifestyle shots where you can see models and you can kind of envision yourself there experiencing the same thing. And it's very shareable. You find it on social, then you go and you post video and photo, and then you can share it yourself on your own social. So it allows you to potentially find out about the founder and the team and feel that connection. So I think for very many reasons, shareability, how engaging it is, and just, it's a better sort of aesthetic experience, I think, than some of these other platforms. I believe that Instagram is going to be a massive booking engine moving forward. And for us, I mean, it's already driving like 80% of our bookings at Onera Fredericksburg.
How do you feel about the OTA's ability, though, to get into that space? So, like, was it just last week that Expedia launched travel shops of like being able and get influencers to post bookable travel, and then if they book it through Vrbo Expedia, that influencer is then going to earn a share of that overall revenue. Like, do you think, I mean, the OTAs are going to figure out a way to get back in here? Like,
I think they certainly may, and I hope they do, right? I mean, that's something that we can leverage. I mean, our properties are picture made for travel shops and some of these other, potential features that may come out or platforms that may come out from some of these OTAs. So I'm all for it, right? It's more distribution for us. And I think they're a little late, but I hope that it continues to progress and continues to become more pervasive. The reality is at this point, everyone's already on Instagram, like the influencers are already there. So they have to kind of combat that. And the influencers are already getting more sophisticated with being able to earn affiliate fees. And the big benefit of using Instagram, I mean, on the host side, right? I don't have to pay. Basically, I'm skimming 14% off the top. So instead of Airbnb charging guest and host collectively 17%, we are paying a payment processing fee of 3% and we're scooping the 14 because we're price parity. We are not discounting on social. So that's one piece. Another piece is that we're reaching what we call an aspirational buyer that's very price insensitive, right? They see our reel and they see Onera and they're like, I got to stay there, or I got to bring my partner there. And whether it's $600 or $850 doesn't really matter as long as they have obviously the means to be able to afford it. So that's another reason we like it. And then just our ability to control the guest and customer interaction all throughout the life cycle of their customer journey.
no, that all makes sense, and I love the sort of idea around. And that's great. Like, you guys can do it. Either way, it's going to add more bookings to you. So
Yeah.
your properties seem like the perfect ones that influencers using travel shops would want to try to create really interesting content around and drive bookings. And everyone driving bookings to your property, that only means and one thing: you can continue to drive rate, right? And so love that. When you sort of work with these influencers, how does that typically go? Like, are they reaching out to you, or is your content team finding people that you think would work well for your brand? Like, is it a mix of both? Like, how are you going about building this strategy?
Yeah. So originally it was all inbound and referral from other influencers that I had. I mean, that's when, Ben Wolff was managing the Instagram account, which was not optimal long
Right.
term. But yeah, now we have a, social media management team. We have somebody dedicated to finding influencers, vetting them, negotiating with them, and ultimately managing them. So we are doing a lot of outbound at this point. But we started all inbound.
So if you were someone with one property, and let's say, and back in the day, you started with one property. You think someone should be thinking about with one property, or is it not till you get three or four that a direct booking strategy really starts to make sense, or only with unique stay type properties that's really Instagrammable? Like, maybe help some of our listeners that maybe have one, two, three, five properties, like, and they love what they're hearing, but Is that something that they should actually a strategy they should take?
So certainly designing for shareability and Instagrammability is the optimal way to go. And you're really doing yourself a disservice if you do that and then don't pursue a strong social strategy and work with a lot of influencers and try to drive bookings direct. I think it can work with probably not one of a more typical but nice higher design home, but I think you can do it with a portfolio, and ways that we've thought about doing that before with potential clients, because we also do social media and digital marketing for third party clients as well. And that's like a booming part of our business because people are seeing, how much value there is there and that this is a new thing they should be doing, but they don't know where to start. And we've become, the group that they look to, which is great. So for these more portfolios of homes in, let's say, in a single market, we can then create an account based on that market. And so you're showing off homes, but you're also showing off the market in general. And then when people go, it allows you to show a lot more content, create a lot more engaging content, and have the potential to go viral. It's really hard to go viral with like, look at my, typical STR home, right? And the other couple routes that I think you can go is build in public. So if you show, from purchasing the property, renovations, all the way through to opening, I think you can start to build a fan base and have the potential to build up a pretty significant social media following that way. I don't know how many bookings you'll get out of it. I'm sure some, but either way, I think it's extraordinarily valuable as a business owner and an entrepreneur to build up a social following for business development, future fundraising, whatever. And then the other piece, which is kind of fun and cutesy, is this idea of creating a persona. So I think Ryanair is one of the best examples of this. So they kind of are poking fun at themselves constantly. They show the airplane with like the goofy face, making snide expressions and that sort of thing on their Instagram. And so people are connecting with that and with the humor there. So I think that if you have more of a run of the mill product, more sort of standard typical home, then you have to think a little bit outside the box in terms of how you can make your account engaging and give it a little more pizzazz.
Oh, that's great advice. Thank you. So, looking towards the future. So, and you guys have been developing these tree houses. I think it was a few months ago, though, I saw on social that this beautiful hotel that seemed like the entire property was one big waterfall. Can you sort of describe the thinking behind it and where you guys are in the process of developing this?
Yeah, so Oasi Hill Country is our next project, and it was designed from the very beginning with social media, Instagram, shareability in mind. And where that starts is the property itself. So I've come to this idea that if we're marketing on social, people find us on Instagram, it doesn't matter that we're like super close to a specific market they want to go to because they're going for that property. They're not going for Fredericksburg or Wimberley. They're going because they want to go to Onera, or in this case, Oasi. So in order to find a property that would blow people away, we actually created this new criteria that in order for a property to meet our criteria, you almost need to have this autonomic response to whip out your phone when you go to the property because the views are that amazing. So if I bring somebody to a property and they don't, whip out their phone and want to take a video, and I don't have that same sensation, or I actually, I'm bringing in a partner to help with capital raising and digital marketing on Oasi, who has a pretty big following on Twitter, Jason Howerton. And he says the views at Oasi live rent free in my brain. So, so like that's the start of it, right? Like what I believe to be the best views in Central Texas, and certainly the best views in the Hill Country, unobstructed, no houses, no power lines, just looks like you're looking into a park. So that's the first thing, unbelievable piece of property. It is a little farther out from sort of sub-markets within the Hill Country. So we have to create more amenities on site because of that. So people don't feel like they have to leave. So that means restaurant, it means probably gym, but we also with Oasi want to lean more into group travel. So to be able to cater to corporate events, wellness retreats, executive retreats, weddings. So for that reason, it also makes sense to have more amenities like a 200-person event space, a spa and gym, which you mentioned that waterfall of the main hotel is the Earth Lodge. It's built into the side of the hill, kind of, terracing down each floor on the side of the hill. And there is this massive water feature that kind of flows throughout every floor. And then at the base, the final waterfall, the gym and spa are actually tucked underneath that final waterfall. So there will be a restaurant. So, it allows people to stay, not want to leave, and to host an unbelievable event at the property as well. So yeah, we're super excited about it. We close on the land June 24th, and we are in kind of peak capital raising, moving towards our first capital closing here in early to mid-June.
Oh, that's great. So how are you going about raising? Is it individual investors? And is it and funds? What are you doing?
Everything.
Everything?
I mean, just in the current, I mean, Jamie, it's hard out there, right? With the
Yeah.
capital raising environment. So anything and everything, we are looking at, but we've had a lot of success with retail, right? People that are inspired. I've been posting on social. Part of our whole like build in public is also raising in public. So we post the renderings, we post the videos of the property. We sort of give some high level overview of the deal. And then if people express interest, we send them actually a Loom video that is me going through the entire deal website that we created and sort of helping somebody understand and underwrite the deal in real time, which is, in my view, a more engaging and entertaining investor experience, which is, that's how we treat our guests. So let's treat our potential investors the same way. And it also is more time efficient for me, right? When they've seen the video, they're coming to me with targeted questions. They've already qualified or disqualified themselves in a lot of ways as potential investors. And then it kind of gets down to, okay, what are your lingering questions? You want to meet me, see if you like me. And then what kind of check size are we talking about? What's your time frame? Those sorts of questions. So it's been really great and effective on that front. We also are talking to institutional. We haven't brought in a big institutional player yet. Usually those things take a little bit longer. We may bring them in our second or third close, like closer to when we're going to build. But we're having those conversations as well. And yeah, I think those are the main buckets, retailer, kind of high net worth, family office, and then sort of smaller institutional. I don't know that we're going to want another public company investor, though. There is one other group that we are talking to on that front. So we'll see.
Yeah. So what is sort of the goal coming out of it, though? Is it that this is the first of many sort of high-end hotel properties that and this sort of brand can be built around? Or is this, and you guys know the market, it's going to be a success, want to hit this one out of the park, and then sort of we'll see like what next steps are.
Yeah, so all of my focus right now is on Oasi Hill Country, raising that capital, getting that one moving. But we have others queued up. And the reality is if we bring in the right institutional partner, then maybe some of that gets accelerated. And our second property under the Oasi flag will be in South Florida. So Homestead, Redlands area, about 45 minutes southwest of Miami. And it's a tropical landscape resort concept. So we have an exotic fruit agritourism component sort of blended with these beautiful treehouse bungalow style units tucked in the jungle. Think like a Bali, Tulum, or Costa Rica style experience stateside, which I don't think has been done. So it'll be exciting to kind of be the first on that front. So that's our second one. We have other ones that we're interested in. Those are the first two. Ultimately, I'd love to work with a family office or a smaller mid-sized institution, maybe a public institution, to be able to build a number of these. I think there's so many markets that they would do extremely well. And it's really just about, the capital side, finding the right partner. I've also thought about raising a GP fund to be the anchor investor in all of these deals that we still would do one-off syndications for each one, but the GP fund would be the anchor investor and help us get through, pre-development, purchase the land, do all the planning.
That makes sense. And maybe getting towards the end now, when you're sort of thinking about sort of your ideal traveler, and having come from the hotel industry and like moving into short-term rentals, like, and there are this sort of traveler that sort of really chooses the type of accommodation based on the trip, based on the stay, whether I'm staying with Airbnb, whether I'm staying with Hilton, whatever type of lodging. Where do you see your sort of portfolio of brands fitting in? Is it just and the luxury traveler just doesn't discern between a luxury treehouse and a luxury hotel, and it's really just about the experience? Or do you think there's going to be a real shift in how people think about this type of lodging?
Yeah. So, I mean, we call our ideal customer profile the modern traveler. That's like our name for this type of traveler that cares about shareability. They care about, staying at a property that they're going to want to show off on social and share with their friends. They want to feel connected to the property, whether that's through the founder or through the property origin story or through some environmental mission, which we also have components of as well. So they want to feel connection and they want to feel like it's authentic. So we're trying to capture a customer base that really wants to collaborate as opposed to feel like a transactional relationship, which I think a lot of, historically, hotel guest relationships have felt a bit transactional. Like there can be good hospitality, but it's very clear, you go to the lobby, you're getting checked in, they're asking how your day was because they're being paid to do so. And it's this kind of clunky experience that nobody really loves. So we're trying to do away with that and still provide great service. We have on-site staff. We're not like, here are your keys, see you later. Like we still provide hospitality and we're there whenever guests need us, but we're not trying to get in the way, right? We're not trying to get in the way of their intimate, secluded, inspiring stay. So that's the kind of guest that we're trying to go after. And when we talk about the modern traveler, I mean, we kind of tongue in cheek a little bit talk about, they might own a Tesla, might have a Apple Watch, maybe go to Burning Man and Coachella, right? They're a bit of a trendsetter amongst their friend group and somebody that, the friend group might look to in terms of, what's a cool place to stay? What's somewhere I should take my wife for our anniversary or, something along those lines. I want a super unique, inspiring experience. Like that's the kind of person that you would go to and ask where to stay. And they've probably already stayed at Onera and some of these other places if they're local.
Well, Ben, this has been an amazing conversation. So excited to see what you guys sort of develop next, and keeping an eye on sort of as you guys build in public with the tree houses. I'm sure as you guys get the hotel going, it's going to be unbelievable to watch. If people wanted to keep in contact with you, keep in contact and sort of monitor the process, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, so I'm very active on LinkedIn. You can find me Ben Wolff, 2 Fs. On Twitter, I'm at Unique Stays Guy. So we post daily on both platforms. And we also have a newsletter. So you can find our newsletter from me on LinkedIn or me on Twitter.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Ben.
Thank you.